Chapter 1115 of One Piece has dropped, and this one is the continuation of Vegapunk's speech as he describes the events from that void in time 800 to 900 years ago, particularly about one incredible character who we've been waiting for years to find out about, and that is Joyboy. Now, getting right into the new chapter called Pieces of Continent. It starts off with the 5th volume of the Yamato cover story as they start on their pilgrimage to honor Yasui. And in this story, Hiyori and Otoku are packing up a lunch for Yamato, and it's not too interesting, but it is just getting started to be fair, since some of the cover stories have like 30 or 40 installments, which is just insane. But enough of that, the chapter begins at the flower capital in Wano as while Vegapunk continues the story on Joyboy, we see Kinemon and Momonosuke talk about how they found a transponder snail in the castle, and also how similar Luffy sounds to Joyboy. If you also notice, they're donning a massive Straw Hat flag as well, showing exactly who they're protected by now. The scene then switches to the G6 naval base where the fake Straw Hats are being held captive, and hilariously, the fake pirate crew are no longer targeting the Straw Hats, but instead the Kid Pirates. And they discuss how Demalo, the captain, is obviously stronger than Joy Ball, misspeaking his name. But this means that Kid stocks are just tanking even further. After getting one-shot by Shanks, Oda just had to rub it in further and make the fake pirates impersonate him instead. But before we get into the rest of the chapter, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps my small channel grow. Also, I've made a Patreon and it's in the description below. Support me if you'd like. Now, back to Egghead, Vegapunk states that he only read from a handful of poneglyphs, but what he found was a record of a vast war where Joyboy fought the world government of today, or as he goes on to say, the precursors for the world government. And this was a giant army put together by 20 kingdoms who were known as the Alliance. And St. Marcus Mars, who's furious at Vegapunk's broadcast still playing, starts wrecking every single transponder snail he sees. Vegapunk then says that this alliance might have had no other choice due to how powerful Joyboy's faction was, and being as neutral as he always is, describes the battle not of good and evil, but of two ideologies clashing head to head. We also get a beautiful silhouette of the actual Joyboy, presumably fighting several of the 20 kings from the Alliance, and we did know that he had the same power as Luffy, but this silhouette is the spitting image of Luffy. A little too much if you ask me. Oh, and there's also Zunisha, our favourite giant elephant. Vegapunk then goes on to say that the country where Joyboy was born was a remarkably advanced civilization. So advanced, in fact, that the weapons used during the war are still impossible to create 800 years later. Not even himself can recreate them. We also see a surprised look at the Foxy Pirates as they wonder what the hell Vegapunk is talking about. Now, back at the Labo phase, Edison contacts Stussy and explains to her that she should lower the barrier and escape herself, but she refuses, stating that something might happen to the Straw Hats before they leave. But Edison remarks that the barrier is pointless anyway because the Gorosei can just walk right past it, and he's done all he can to help them escape, so it's basically up to them now. Then we see Jinbei and Zoro, who are on the phone to Nami and rushing to meet up with everyone else, Nami also being particularly angry at Zoro for wasting so much time. She then tells everyone to hurry since there are more ships gathering around their escape route, and they don't want to just land in the water and then get immediately bombarded from the Marines. Stussy is also relieved she managed to help them escape so far, but Edison just tells her again to escape herself. However, she glumly mentions that without Stella, she has no one to live for anymore. Even Kaku, who's still stuck in the bubble next to her, is surprised at what she said. Now, at the north part of the island, the Straw Hats, Bonnie, and the other giants are still fighting Venus Juro, also shouting that they can't let him use his katana since he can cut through anything. Venus Juro then kicks away one of the giants and aims for Bonnie before slicing at her. Frankie, however, just manages to pull Bonnie out of the way in time, and she shrinks after using her giant form into Frankie's arms. But the entire figurehead and the flag of the giant ship are just completely sliced off in the attack. And Frankie holds Bonnie and she breathes heavily, tired from the fight, but then Vegapunk appears again, stating that the Void Century came to an end with the defeat of Joyboy, also being overlaid with Zunisha and the Metal Giant, reminding us of their connection with that ancient pirate. After hearing what Vegapunk said, Venus Juro jumps up into the air, annoyed, and then prepares a mighty swing, also saying something about an obnoxious bio response, which makes him feel quite robot-like, although he might just act like one, not actually be one. Then he swings a blade, and it slices the entirety of Egghead's Labo phase cleanly in two, and I mean the entire sky cloud and the building inside. And I just think this is the most powerful sword attack we've ever seen in One Piece so far. Maybe being on par with Law's powerful attack which sliced through the whole of Punk Hazard. Honestly, it looks to be about the same level. And I think this is kind of gearing up Zoro in the future to fight him as well, because he has done similar attacks but nowhere near as close to this one. Now with the entire Labo phase sliced in two, everyone inside starts falling down through the building, including the Seraphim, who seem just as shocked as everyone else. And Vegapunk then continues his speech, stating that the war left vast and permanent scars across the whole planet. The world is made up of thousands of islands, and because sailing between them can be difficult, many people don't experience any other culture but their own, and even a lot of people viewing the broadcast think this is just normal. But Vegapunk goes on to say that this might not have been the case 1,000 years ago. He then reveals that a cataclysm occurred during the Void Century that caused the world to sink, and that they are living on the remnants of a giant continent that existed long ago. And just look at this art depicting a giant ruin on the ocean floor. Oda must have had the most successful eye surgery in history, because this was his art before the operation, having deteriorated in quality for a long time, but now this is the art after the operation. The difference is staggering, and I hope we get fantastic art like this more often. The Revolutionary Army are absolutely shocked at this, and while Dragon and Sabo remain ever so stoic, Vegapunk continues that the world from a millennium ago now sleeps at the bottom of the sea. In fact, there were a number of continents on the world's surface that they know nothing about, and we get a look at Nami's hometown, who are awestruck at the revelation, except Nojiko, who instead walks off to check her tangerines, completely uninterested in the broadcast. And I guess this is Oda telling us that not everyone has to be interested in Vegapunk's story. The world is vast and everyone is an individual, with some of them seeing knowledge as not being as important compared to the things close to them. But I bet it's important to us, and Vegapunk then speculates that hiding the Void Century would have been very difficult if the world looked the same as it did back then, but it being hidden kind of makes more sense because the sea level had risen 200 meters during the Void Century. The Grunt Marines are in absolute shock over this, and continue to be absolutely baffled by what Vegapunk has to say, even being drawn into his story, before they're reminded that they need to rescue Cypherpole, who has now fallen to the ground level of the island after Venus Juro's attack. We then see a few different places as they react to this new reveal. The people of Mocktown are still, well, mocking the story. At the Cherry Blossom Kingdom, they question how something like that could happen, and Kuroha even comments how interesting the world has become now. On another island, the residents there ponder about a mountain of their own being 200 meters tall, and wonder how many people could have died in that cataclysm. Vegapunk then states that it would be natural to assume that it could have been caused by a natural disaster, but he can state for a fact that it was man-made. And in his blimp, Big News Morgan screams that this is just crazy, but is immediately shushed by Princess Vivi as Vegapunk continues saying that a natural disaster on that scale would have happened over centuries. But due to his measurements of climatology and geology and other things, this would not have been possible in just 1 century, so the cause must be something else, and when he detected sea levels to possibly rise, he had his answer. He now knew the cause and eventually confirmed their existence. The ancient weapons that sank the world into the sea 800 years ago still exist today and await the moment that they stir once again. And this is in reference to the ancient weapons Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus, which have been teased throughout the entire story of One Piece. In other words, the vast war that arose during the Void Century never actually came to an end, and in this revelation, The chapter ends there with a huge panel of Emu's face glaring angrily. Also seeming to be growling as well, which just makes me worried that they are going to do something drastic to stop the broadcast that not even the Gorosei can actually stop. And this arc could just get even crazier than we ever imagined, and I'm all here for it. This whole arc just keeps getting better and better each chapter. We finally get to see a silhouette of Joyboy looking very similar to Luffy. Vegapunk finally revealed the history of the Void Century as he knows it, and the whole arc seems to be ramping up to something even more crazy with Emu getting angry. It just feels like something big is coming, and a writer who can pull off that feeling is a special writer for sure. But with this excitement comes sadness, because as this arc wraps up, we're going to be getting the Kuma backstory in the anime. So be sure to prepare tissues because we are going to be crying all over again. It's now coming to the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy you stopped by. My channel is steadily growing and I'm amazed at the support I'm getting. And I also have a Patreon now, so feel free to support me however you like. The link will be in the description, and I will shout out names at the end of each video. Thank you again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.